Hallo miteinander, I'm Gish86, and this is Touhou Koukishin. As an exception, let us postpone our usual recap and first concentrate on where we are. It is a lavish garden in what appears to be the courtyard of a luxurious estate. Said estate happens to be the Palace of the Earth Spirits, the heartpiece of the subterranean world. With that out of the way, last time we repelled a wicked being, one who wielded a weapon of devastating nuclear power against us, while most likely unable to pronounce the word itself, nuclear. I know it sounds just like him, but no, it was not W. He is no longer president and cannot be re-elected. We know who it was of course the ever so forgetful Oku. I mean, we were there for it. Now up here waits a large locked door. This is going to sound a little bit strange, but you can never get past this door. Still, there was a good reason why I showed it to you. Please keep it in mind, because I have a very wild theory about its purpose. But for now, let's talk about this stage on a more basic level. The Palace of the Earth Spirits consists of several connected areas. Right now, we find ourselves at the courtyard in the center. There is also the run-down and lava-filled west wing, and we've got the east wing housing the living quarters. Finally, there's the chapel in the north. The first stop of our sightseeing tour will be said west wing, and just as I promised, it has really seen better days. Grimy cracked walls, broken floor tiles, and a little later from now, lava pits. Satori should really have the place renovated sometime. Of course, its terrible condition does not stop all these critters from populating it. They probably like it this way. Now, a very special thing about the West Wing is that it's subject to a very strange bug. It's either that or a design flaw, and it's consistent for here as well as the East Wing. Nowhere else in the game as far as I remember. Getting to the point, the perspectives of the playfield and the minimap here don't match. It's not something that will affect us all that much in the Let's Play, because I'm mostly used to it. But if you're playing this part of the game for yourself, you will think, God dang, this is weird. To make it clear what exactly I mean, take a look at the minimap. You'll notice that whenever Sakuya faces north, the arrow points to the left. That is very disorienting. Maybe not game-breaking, but still very questionable. I can assure you the angry reviewer stereotype would not shut up about this. So with this problem and the fact that at least the West Wing isn't very pretty to look at, you might think that I wouldn't like this stage a whole lot. That could not be further from the truth. The Palace of the Earth Spirits makes it up there to my favorite stages in all of Touhou Koukishin. The reasons for this are manifold. I don't even know where to begin. I've already listed the many diverse components of this place, but what I like so much about it goes in a very different direction. The musical score for this place gives it a creepy, haunted, almost cursed atmosphere. My favorite ingredient, so to say, is the grandfather clock's ticking. You can hear it very occasionally, and it gives me goosebumps. Not everyone might be able to see why I'm feeling this track so much. I explained in episode 8 that the soundtrack of Touhou Koukishin doesn't convey much energy. This one is no exception to the rule. It doesn't try to transport the action very much. It doesn't give you the drive that, for example, Bloody Tears or Guile's theme do. But man, does it ever fit the mood so perfectly, in my opinion. We are exploring an estate that is as dark and evil as it is royal and exalted. Castlevania maybe? I guess Bloody Tears wouldn't be so out of place after all. If we tinker with the camera here, we can see an area with treasure beyond a great chasm. Having discovered this secret, we are going to turn around and ignore it. there is no possible way for us to clear this jump. As Sakuya. If we had picked Remilia, that would not be a problem. The flapping of Our Lady's vampire wings would carry her chubby little body all the way over there. But Sakuya is just no creature of the night. It is unlikely she would ever want to become one. Over here we can get one more treasure from the West Wing. It is a pink diamond. We have bought one of those before and are wearing it right now, but I don't think we've ever found one in a stage. It is a good accessory if you like spamming skills. We aren't exactly spamming them, but our use is liberal enough. With 11 skill points to spare, we can allow ourselves to do that. I believe we have everything there is to get from the West Wing, so let us leave the way we came in. What did we actually come here for? Well, I guess experience, money, and not all that important treasure. Yes, the whole West Wing, this massive detour, was completely optional. Nothing happened in there that even remotely advanced us in our quest. That sounds like such a flawed design choice, and I can't possibly keep claiming that this stage is so great after all this, right? But alas, I still do. Because you see, more than any other stage in the game, exploring the Palace of the Earth Spirits is an adventure to me. And in the game subtitled Adventures of Scarlet Curiosity, isn't that what we are looking for? Before I go and explain that, some info about the southern side of the courtyard we have now landed at. It has 2 garden pavilions in it, one in the southwest and one in the southeast. You definitely want to visit those, because they're nice, and because they hold valuable treasure. So what do I mean by adventure? The pavilions are the perfect example. You want to see them. The Palace of the Earth Spirits lets you roam and investigate freely. It's just really fun if you view it as a big playground, even if it's a little bit on the silly side when it comes to game and map design. I admit, it kind of is. Just so you know, this is technically the shortest stage in the whole game. You can reach the boss in under a minute if you know where to find it. But at the same time, if you allow it, this stage has so much to offer. As said, the map design may be questionable, but not nonsensical if you think of the palace as a place where people just spend their days. You wouldn't want your home to be a winding, impractical labyrinth, now would you? Nonetheless, I told you I had a theory about it. The way it is, 90% of the stage is optional, but I think there was something planned and unrealized that would give it more rhyme and reason. I think I'll talk more about it when we've seen most of the level. Now, back in the West Wing, I said that Sakuya probably wouldn't want to become a vampire and just kind of stop there. If she also had little bat wings to slow her descent, that would help us immensely. Of course, very few people, sane people, would like to be voluntarily vampirified, so why did I bring it up? It's kind of an important matter in fandom actually. Sakuya belongs to the crew of the Scarlet Devil Mansion, where most members are either vampires or some sort of other demon. Only Sakuya still holds on to her humanity. You know what people sometimes do to fit in? I do know of this one funny webcomic where Sakuya had herself bitten by Remilia at some point in the future, perhaps out of fear from dying of old age. There is, however, a hint in canon that she wouldn't do that. In the extra stage of Touhou 8, Sakuya staunchly declines the prospect of immortality. That conversation is held in regards to Moko and the Horai elixir, but it could also be understood as an offer from Remilia for turning Sakuya. That is hard to say though. It is uncertain if new vampires in the Touhou-verse are even created in such a grim way. I would not put my money on it. Touhou already takes a lot of liberties when it comes to the traditional vampire of Western mythology. We've been over this. freaking parasols are enough to protect them from the sun. Maybe they're just magically created, or they make babies like everything else. But enough of that now. We have arrived at the living quarters, easily my favorite part of the whole stage. Observant players can spot little hints that give away what character a certain part of the wing belongs to, and that gives it a lot of charm and character. One of these hints is very subtle, the other not so much. You won't miss it even if you try. Nevertheless, I'll explain them to you. Perhaps there are even more that I didn't recognize. Maybe you will. Now the East Wing as an area is pretty straightforward. It only concentrates on combat, no pitfalls like we had in the West Wing. It also loops around itself fully. We went to the left at the start, but we could have gone right if only we felt like it. Whichever way you go, you'll land right back at the entrance once you're done. It's pretty cool, no need for any backtracking. One thing to know about the living quarters is that there are a lot of skull chariots around, as in you'll find one in almost every room. Sometimes they like to start their charge attack from off screen, which is kind of unfair. You can always hear it coming though. I've also noticed that Iwakiba Mountains is really effective against them. Like right here. The potential double hit will wreck them good. Once we've taken out all the trash, we can see that this is actually a very cozy side chamber. It's got a big rug, a comfy bed, and a pleasant fireplace. A chimney next to rug and parquet floor. Someone wants to kill off their Sims. Now, I believe I know who this chamber belongs to. It is the angriest of all birds, the one who tried to melt us, Oku. What gives it away is this room next to it, a room filled with unusually many chests, ridiculously many. One of them had a throwing knife, a now insultingly worthless weapon. We already found one in the very first episode of the Let's Play. I think all this is meant to be a reference to a joke among fans. Oku is said to be a hoarder, as she is a raven. A hell raven to be exact, but that's still close enough to a raven. So she likes to collect shiny stuff, no matter how useless it is. I first heard of that joke from Touhou attorney Ayashame Marutu, where Oku's room is terribly messy. But I think we should move on to the next resident now. This part of the living quarters is filled with human bones. Whole mountains of them even. There is only one person at the palace morbid enough to collect these. It is of course Rinkaenbyo, the Kasha, or Hellcat if you like. Here we can see the wheelbarrows she uses to transport the corpses. Yeah, somehow I think Orin has issues and might not be the best at making friends. Just going to claim that from this display here. I could just be talking out of my ass. Maybe she's the queen of every party, and these are all the people who try to take her home. It was not the best idea they ever had. We just found something really fine, a luminescent apron. Do not stop reading early, it is not the same as a luminescent ribbon. It is better in all categories, most noticeably hit points. It is however a little bit weaker than the maid uniform of the moon we are carrying, and still refusing to equip. Oh well, I think the time for that one will come very soon. Our time in the East Wing is coming to its end. While it was nice to see the abodes of Satori's pets, I do have some criticism on my mind. We saw how Orin lived, but she herself was nowhere to be seen. I guess she must have been out gathering even more dead people. While I'm not demanding she be in the game when a lot of other characters aren't as well, it would have been very fitting to encounter her here as a sort of unexpected mid-boss. It's a bit of a missed opportunity in my opinion. Since we are already dreaming about what-if scenarios, the West Wing also could have done with such a mini-boss. Yugi could have worked for it, given the look of the area, although it's a bit more of a stretch logically. I believe the Oni of the Underground are relatively independent from Satori's reign, so it would be a lot less likely to find one of them at the palace. Anyway, the only place left to go to now is the chapel. The living quarters gave us that sweet luminescent apron, but apart from that, didn't help us progress in our quest. I hinted beforehand that would be the case. So, the chapel is where we would have needed to head to from the start. Now let's go back to that theory I mentioned. Over here we can find another pointless locked doorway. I bet that originally you would enter the chapel through these, and you got the keys for them from the west and east wings. I have of course no proof for this, but such a key collecting side quest would bring a lot of sense to the whole structure of the stage. If there is some truth to it, one can only speculate why it wasn't realized. Maybe the mechanics of the side quest were very unstable, so much that Ankakespa rather dropped it than have bugs annoy their players. No matter what could have been, the Palace of the Earth Spirits is still a beautiful and enjoyable stage to me. I don't think I've ever waltzed straight into the chapel. Well, except once for the curiosity of finding out if there's anything stopping you from it. There is not. I always scavenge this stage for anything it has to offer, because I like it so much. It's like an interactive episode of Cribs, with the minor difference that the folks living here want to violently end your life. You know, minor. Coming up is a very nasty group of enemies, the gate guards of the chapel so to say. It's two super fairies and a red flower fairy, who can be tough if you don't have a spell card. If you indeed don't, it may be worth looking for weaker enemies nearby first to gather the energy. Once again, we put on our boss loadout and proceed down this massive hall. It looks super impressive with its lighting effects, giving it a certain majesty. The stained glass floor inlets are especially marvelous. You know, it may seem very random to suddenly encounter Christian symbolism. I don't want religion in my... No, let's not go there. The character we are about to meet is very often tied to churches somehow. Her stage in Touhou 11 had that same stained glass mosaic in the background that we've been seeing. Oh, and I just love what the camera does here on the last few meters. This very close over-the-shoulder zoom. It really adds to the overall tension, the build-up. The character in question is Satori Komeiji. Yes, we finally see her in the flesh. The following conversation will seem very strange at first. Satori smugly boasts with her mind-reading powers before attacking us calmly and apparently unprovoked. It makes more sense if you know of Sakuya's plans, and of course, Satori can tell what these are at a glance. The reason, so much I can spoil you, why we've sought out Satori is because we want to borrow her powers. I suppose she does not take kindly to being objectified in such a fashion. I think we are going to do some dynamic skipping here to make this as quick and painless for you as possible. On this very bold attempt, this was somehow a thing that happened. Yes, truly a masterful display. Not. And because of that, it is no wonder that it ended up like this. First death of the LP. Hopefully I can now give you an unabridged and less embarrassing attempt of this. Satori has a lot of health and great diversity in her attacks. Ankakespa has preserved her gimmick of Touhou 11 in that she reads her opponent's minds to imitate spells they've seen from others. I believe the upcoming one is meant to be Pachuli's non-directional laser. That's kind of cool. You can assume that Sakuya is very familiar to the techniques of her fellow mansion dwellers. One of these bootleg spells is the absolute spine breaker of this fight. It's what we just saw, Marissa's Master Spark. If the beam catches you, it'll do 360 damage unmodified. For us, that'll be over 500. Needless to say, you have to take it very seriously. Whenever you see it coming, try to get closer to the center of the arena so that you can circle around Satori faster and flee from it. The Master Spark always takes turns with Satori's other big spell card, Reimu's Evil Sealing Circle, the one we saw just a few seconds ago. It really helps to know this, then you can better anticipate when the next spark comes. All in all, the tricky parts of this fight are the complete opposite of Oku's. The spell cards are what's fearsome, whereas Satori's regular attacks aren't anything too special. Almost all of them can be countered if you're quick. And we ended with a soul sculpture out of sheer spite. Before we concentrate on the next conversation, one more thing I couldn't mention yet. Satori's melee attack where she spins around could also be an imitation of something. It is very similar to something Yuyuko did in Kengeki Muso. The sound effect of them is the same, and the residue Satori leaves looks a little bit like cherry petals. Okay, so here's where it becomes clear what we needed Satori for. She is to be used as a living lie detector for interrogating our prisoners of war, the three fairies. They pretended, quite amateurishly, to have no connections to our problems, but we are going to squeeze the whole truth out of them. They have indeed been in contact with who is likely to be our monster. I really like this upcoming line. Less the line itself, but more Sakuya's expression that goes with it. Tell me everything, now. What a sweet smile. It promises unbearable pain. And so we are finally out of danger and back at the safety of the library again. After reporting to Patchouli here, the 3-stage marathon is finally over, and the game lets you take a break and even save again. But first, we have some more story to cover. It turns out our enemies have been hiding right at our doorstep in an invisible base. Not only have we learned of this now, but the three fairies with their special abilities are also the key to entering this facility. We and the fairies, yes, we've had our differences, fights and interrogations, but we've also saved their lives and now they are paying us back with an unlikely alliance. It's a cute turn of events, I like it. This mysterious Kappa stronghold will be our next destination. It may even be our final one. That's what it'll sound like as the conversation goes on. The characters treat it much like the showdown of it all. It might very well be, not saying it is. Now interestingly, having cleared the palace is also the point of the game where all past stages, save for the library archives, become available again. I have foreshadowed to something along those lines happening in the very first episode of the Let's Play, and now it is that time. If you decide to replay these old stages, know that all monster levels will be beefed up to an appropriate 35. Not only that, but bosses will also be upscaled to pose a threat again. Even the very early ones, like for example Wriggle, can become quite challenging under these conditions. You could call the whole thing a New Game Plus of sorts. Shortly, the map will appear again. There it is, and that is also our cue. I'm Gesh86, this was Touhou Koukishin, and next time we go back to the roots. Never forget where you come from. Bis bald!